Brown, Mach 95, Blue Razor, Blue Razor. Hurry, 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 hurry. Did I do it right?
I think so.
How you doing, Colts fans? Today we're talking about your team. That was my best Peyton Manning impression, so hopefully it wasn't too terrible for you. Uh, what initial thoughts? Initial thoughts. You go first.
Uh, I like what the Colts have done this offseason. That was my initial thought when I first thought of the team. Was from what I remember before I went back and looked at a lot of stuff. Really liked what they did in the offseason to improve their team. They were a tough out in almost all their games. I mean, except that week one game, and that's just because Pat McAfee cursed them going into that, saying that Phillip Rivers and the Colts were going to kill the Jags. So you got to blame Pat McAfee for that one. They were a tough out in every single one of their games. It felt like every win they got was very earned. From what I remember watching games live and going back and looking at some of them. A lot of good young talent too. That defense, though, we've been over it multiple times. And defense is always first thing that comes to my head for the Colts. Can only name two guys on it though.
It's so funny how that plays out. I just don't. It is the weirdest thing in the world. I honestly don't even know what to say to that. You can lead us in with the stats today if you'd like.
Stats?
Yeah, or sorry, I meant your season stuff.
All right. Uh, First thing I had to say, because watched a couple early games and then a couple later games too. Jonathan Taylor just felt like he came out of nowhere at some point in the season. Like he was having an okay season for a rookie, and then towards the end, just went insane. So those games were fun to watch, seeing him just tear up teams on the ground. Can't wait to see what he does next season. Really liked their use of Jacoby Brissett in goal line to get him out there, whether that be throwing the ball or QB sneaking it in to not hurt Phillip Rivers' glass bones in his old age. Along with that Jacoby Brissett comment, though, Frank Reich dials up some very creative plays in third down situations or red zone situations that I mean, you could see what Philadelphia did when he was there. Not saying that he was like the major play caller there, because Doug Peterson was, but he had a part in those plays. And just, I'm very excited to see what he can do with a more mobile and younger, spry quarterback there. Get some more creative stuff going instead of, Phillip Rivers. Just got to pull him out if you want to do anything athletic with the QB position.
Yeah.
Zach Pascal was great. I overlooked him a lot during the season. When I saw him making plays going back and watching, yeah, he was a treat to watch. A very forgotten guy in my eyes. The ball in their offense gets spread out a ton. That like everyone gets a touch. Like fullback to T.Y. Hilton, just everyone's getting a touch. It was insane. Like with the way the NFL's going, just being more pass heavy, usually it's like number one, number two, and your slot receiver. Like your top three receivers, and then tight end if you got a good tight end. Those are the guys getting a majority of touches. The Colts were going like fifth wide receiver, sixth wide receiver on the roster was getting like 2 catches a game. It was insane to see. Uh like I said at the start, their defense does not have a lot of names on it, but it is one of the best units in the league. Just the ability of a team to remain that nameless at a whole side of the ball. Like they obviously have Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner. Those two guys are studs, but everyone else is like, who? Who? Bobby Okereke getting some fumble recoveries to win them some games? What?
Yeah.
Justin Houston being only 32 is wild. It feels like he's been in the league since before I've been born. Uh, I can't believe he is that young. Kenny Moore is all over the place. That just wrote that in all caps. He is everywhere on the field making plays. Darius Leonard, DeForest Buckner, studs. That doesn't really even have to be said. And have Isaiah Rodgers return punts too. It is stupid seeing a guy that is good at kickoffs not being used on punt return.
Yeah.
So stupid.
I've never seen anyone else go for a double hurdle. complete one hurdle and then go for a second. So I mean, you got to get him on the field when you can if he's willing to do that. Man, that was wild. Is that all you got for him?
Yeah, that's all I got for him.
Okay. Uh, I can't believe how much success Philip Rivers actually had last season, and that's all I have to say about it. I mean, honestly, a point I kept coming back to with this team is probably completely underrate their coaching, because this team, just for like who's actually on it and what they get out of it, is probably like the most upgraded team by their coaching in the NFL. And I don't necessarily think it's that close, because I think there's a lot of spots on this roster that aren't like too special. Just middle of the road guys that they got playing, like that they've got all these middle of the road guys playing way up, or even like low tier guys. Like the entire defense is a bunch of guys we've never heard of. Rodrigo Blankenship is obviously insane just by his looks alone. So that was the second thing we said. Running back combination, obviously insanely good. Still can't believe they retained Marlon Mack. That's ridiculous that nobody would pay him more to get him off the team. But he was injured most of last season. I don't like the receiving core. And honestly, you said you like were surprised with Zach Pascal. Honestly, a few years ago, I feel like I was thinking, oh, Zach Pascal's about to come on. Zach Pascal's about to be a legit thing. He's just stayed where he's been. It's just like, oh, okay. T.Y. Hilton's getting old. I don't really love him. The only guy I'm kind of okay with is Michael Pittman. And even then, he doesn't do anything insane. So, like, really, I don't love that receiving core. And yet this team doesn't have too much difficulty throwing the ball. They find other ways to do it. And once again, credit to the coaching staff there. The defense rallies to the ball extremely well. The short passing game by Frank Reich hides their underwhelming receiver talent. Honestly, with that being said, Frank Reich may be the best coach to get the most out of his players. So, sorry, kind of going back over what I said. I mean, if you think about it, this team's got like Darius Leonard, Quentin Nelson, DeForest Buckner. DeForest Buckner's like one of the only guys of those three that's really at like a main position that you would want a superstar at. Like if you were just asked, hey, what positions do you want superstars at? You probably wouldn't say like off-ball linebacker or guard as your first choice, and really not even DT, because you would probably still say edge first. So it's like, geez, you got all these superstars, but they're really not even in the most important position. And yet this team's still able to get double-digit wins last season with old man Phil Rivers in his first year with the team. It's pretty impressive. I don't know what they're going to do without their secret weapon, Jacoby Brissett. That's going to make life really difficult. I watched the Titans in Week 10 and Packers in Week 11, and I have to say that the football gods were seemingly heavily on their side in those games. This team always knows how to play to have a chance in a game. They're never really playing and not going to have a chance in a game, which makes them a lot more interesting of a team to watch. And like I said earlier, I think Pittman is currently the best receiver on the team, which I don't know if is a great thing. Jonathan Taylor also is a very strong runner, while Nyheim Hines out of the backfield is amazing catching passes. The tight end depth is also really good. And then the thing that I just also wanted to point out is, like, last season they had a really weak downfield attack. I feel like Rivers was only going to throw the ball down the field if the receivers were like wide open most of the time. So I feel like Carson Wentz expands on that a lot, not because I'm necessarily going to praise his arm strength, but it's a lot better than Phil Rivers. And then I just have a few notes on Carson Wentz specifically. I really think the good that you see from him is great. We talk about Tua not having any flash. There's still plenty of flash from Carson Wentz, even though he had an awful season last year. The arm angles he can throw out are still crazy. He can break away from a ton of sacks. Still very athletic. It's just those like poor decisions he still makes every once in a while. And it's not helped when the Eagles receivers are trash either. But the thing is that he's coming to a team that really I don't think is like top tier receiving, as I said. So it's kind of funny that he gets put here after being with the Eagles. But he does have a lot of other things around him. Like, I think the running backs are all competent. I think the tight ends are all competent. And I think there's a pretty solid O-line. So if we can just use those things to our advantage, use our coach, who's very solid offensive game planning, to our advantage, then I think Carson Wentz could at least be looking to have a better year this year than he did with the Eagles last year. How much better? I'm not really sure. I could say with how bad it was last year, it could be a significant jump, but I wouldn't say I'm looking for him to be inside the top 10, probably just outside of it, if all goes well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's wide receiver wise, I think he's still going to a better situation. Like he's not throwing to college quarterbacks converted to wide receivers anymore. So
Yeah.
I'll just say it because I have to say it whenever we talk about it. He's not throwing to Greg Ward. He's throwing to Zach Pascal now.
Yes, you're right. You got any stats you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, I got one because again, you cover everything, but Rodrigo Blankenship's field goal percentage of like the ones he made very underwhelming. For how much hype he was getting. Like I thought it would be better.
Did you think that his hype was based on...
He's a rookie kicker. I'm not going to hold that against him. I just thought he was making like 95, 96, 97% of his kicks. And when I see 85, I was like, ooh, that's kind of lower than what I expected.
Did you think that hype was about anything else besides a
no,
meme?
I definitely thought it was because he looks like a nerd and he makes Legos or builds with Legos. That's what the hype was all about. But I thought he would have been better than 85%.
Yeah, no, if you look at the other kickers we've looked at throughout the year, honestly, he's sitting like middle of the road right now. So for a rookie kicker, it probably was pretty decent season.
Yeah.
If that's all you got, then I'll just honestly mine kind of go quick too. Even though like you said, I usually have a decent amount. I didn't realize Marlon Mack missed like the whole year, as I said before. He literally missed almost like every game, so that was wild to me. I just was shocked by that. I thought he'd get a little more time before he missed, but he didn't. 1,169 yards for Jonathan Taylor on the ground is amazing. Also 12 total touchdowns is really good. The leading reception getter on the team was Nyheim Hines, 63 grabs. That kind of just shows how the short passing game worked and how they would rely on other positions besides the receiver position to make plays for them. 762 yards for T.Y. Hilton led the team. Rodrigo was okay. Punting was pretty good. Kenny Moore had 4 interceptions, 13 passes defended for Kenny Moore, 12 passes defended for Xavier Rhodes. Darius Leonard had 3 forced fumbles, 9.5 sacks for DeForest Buckner, 132 tackles for Darius Leonard, 92 tackles for Anthony Walker, 10 tackles for loss for Buckner. That's everything I had.
All right, let's look at their gains now. Biggest one obviously is Carson Wentz. They send over a first, maybe a second, depending on how it goes. I don't know what the stipulation is. And Nick Sirianni for Carson Wentz.
Okay.
But they get their franchise quarterback in that now that Phil Rivers is retiring. Pick up Eric Fisher after the Chiefs cut him, which is insane. That's just making one of the strongest offensive lines in the league even stronger. They pick up Eddie Pinheiro to be competition for Hot Rod in camp. And they get Isaac Rochelle, whose wife runs an awesome TikTok.
I put Sam Tevi on there too, honestly.
Yes.
This team, talking about gains and losses, they just don't like spending money. Is like, it's just like you don't see it in the NFL. They just don't like spending money. They have it too. They just don't like spending it. They're like, we need that's the rainy day fund. We just you can't touch that. We can't. And I don't think what's his face? Who's the old man that owns the team? I can't think of it right now.
I'm picturing his face. I can't think. No. I know Ballard's their
Lucas?
GM.
No, his last name.
No, Lucas Oil is the stadium.
Yeah, no. What the heck? Why? I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't think of it. But yeah, I just don't picture
Jim Irsay.
Yes, I don't picture Jim Irsay being a tightwad. That's what I have to say.
No, well, the stories that you hear Pat McAfee say on his podcast, where he's like, "Oh yeah, we took a helicopter to dinner." I'm like, yeah, why is this guy not trying to trade for Julio Jones and give him a bunch of money at that point?
Who knows? What do you got for losses?
For losses, Jacoby Brissett, Danico Autry, Phil Rivers to retirement. Malik Hooker and Justin Houston are guys that are still in free agency and have not been signed yet.
I got LaRaven Clark, also Anthony Walker, and Trey Burton, question mark. So
Yes.
that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I mean, it's their losses and gains are kind of like evened out. It's
just
I
don't.
mean they didn't.
One of these guys is sitting in free agency, and yet they went and tried to replace him in the draft at one of the few positions that I don't think that they needed to address at all. Like, I'm confused. I don't know. Were you
Uh,
ready to go through the draft?
yeah. Let's go through their draft here.
Okay.
You want to start us off?
Uh, I mean, it doesn't matter because I just want to hop back and forth like we did
Yeah.
last
Yeah.
episode with every pick. We'll just talk about each pick at once. So you can go.
Well, their first pick is on Kwity Paye, and I mean, I not wasn't too high on Kwity Paye going into it. Went back, watched some of his stuff. I'm kind of changed it, especially with how well he's going to fit in with the Colts' defensive line, and just pressure's going to be the name of the game for them now with him there, just on all fronts. That like the defense for them so solid. I cannot gush about their defense enough, and the fact that I only know two guys on it is even better.
It's because we're talking about team ball. Yeah, no,
Yeah, team ball.
he's really versatile position wise, and obviously many useful moves. He can do a little bit of everything to get after the quarterback, and I obviously like the pick too.
hmm And they doubled down on edge again, and they get Dio Odengbo from Vanderbilt in the second round, which he does not give up on a play, man. He just is strong willed with everything he does. He feels himself across the line, which I liked. He doesn't just try side every single time like a lot of tries to work his way inside some of the time too. Uh, but Vandy edge rusher, I'm not really too big of a fan of it. I most of his sacks that I saw were kind of freebies and just QBs that didn't want to throw the ball away. We're just like I'd rather get sacked here than get rid of the ball.
Like it was like those quarterbacks got sucked into an animation in Madden. It was just like it's just like he's not really that close, but the quarterback ran into him, and he didn't even disengage with his blocker before the quarterback ran into him. Uh, yeah, I don't think I've been this cruel to a second round pick yet. He was a second round pick, right?
He was
Yeah,
a second round
yeah.
pick.
I don't think I've been this cruel to anybody else that was this high of a pick. I literally just wrote bust. Period. Not good at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I was not
Uh,
impressed.
a guy that isn't going to be a bust though, and I think they have as a steal in the fourth round. Kyle Granson. I was very high on him pre-draft. Tight end out of SMU. Dude is fast, and he dominated that competition. Oh my lord. I just everything he did was awesome. He was mossing dudes, running past guys, flattening guys out in the blocking game. I loved him, and I think it's a great pickup in the fourth round for them, especially if they're not going to try to get Trey Burton back.
See, this is the pick that I was actually talking about. That's like kind of questionable to me. I don't get this. Yes, he's a good player. I'm not knocking
hmm
him, but is he going to be a superstar? Like you need to tell me now. Is he about to be a superstar?
Well, if you look at my tight end predictions, I don't think anyone thinks anyone in my top four besides Kyle Pitts is going to be a superstar. Like
Oh
Kyle
yeah.
Granson, Tommy Tremble, and Pro Wells. Like no one's gonna, but I think he's gonna be.
Well, I mean, it's just that I don't understand how going tight end here like helps the team as much as something
Oh,
else could. Like there's almost no other team. There's so few teams that I actually want to take the obligatory wide receivers, but like if this team drafted like three receivers, I would be applauding them because I really don't think that their receivers are anything special at this point. Um, Meanwhile, I think Mo Alley Cox and Jack Doyle are still like plenty talented, and I don't understand why we need to go get a third guy. I like it, like for the team now with how like far the team went last season, how many wins the team got last season. I feel like we should be adding to a position that is more needy than the tight end room because I don't think the tight end room is needy. If he turns out to be a superstar, it's going to be great. But if he's just like an average tight end and he's still getting subbed out for the other two guys I already mentioned, then I don't understand this pick. But like I said, I'm not knocking the player itself. I just don't understand that from a roster building standpoint. But other people have loved how this team has built the roster the past like few years or so, if not a little longer. And I generally agree with that, but I still have to question some things.
Yeah. I went back and looked at the fourth and fifth round, just the guys that were still on the board at that point for wide receiver for them. Just so many solid guys that I was high on pre-draft that were still on the board at this time. And I mean they did need to get a safety to replace Malik Hooker if they're not going to re-sign him, because why spend money? And they get Sean Davis, who it I mean safety was the like first actual position we did that wasn't kicker punter, and we both watched a ton of safeties, and Sean Davis was 24. He was 24 on my list. He hits hard, just reads and reacts well, goes to the ball. And he always goes for the ball too. That's something that I noticed when he's got a guy wrapped up in a tackle. He's trying to rip the ball out. I think he's going to be a solid safety for them, but like these Kyle Granson, Sean Davis, and Sam Ellinger are like they're three picks from like you could have drafted a wide receiver here. Again, we rag on the teams where it's like obligatory wide receiver when you already have two solid guys or three solid guys on roster, but you just needed to take one.
The teams have like four solid guys on roster, and they're like, we need a fifth.
Yeah, but the Colts are like our number one receiver or number one receiver is T.Y. Hilton, who is aging. Number two is Michael Pittman now at this point, who had one touchdown reception and didn't give his number up to the quarterback that they brought in. And they decided, we don't need to take a shot on a wide receiver until the seventh.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Sean Davis, if we're gonna group these guys together a little, why are QBs throwing him the football? Like, I don't think I've actually seen. I don't think, like, we've talked about getting like thrown easy interceptions. This guy literally had like 5 interceptions where there wasn't a receiver within 5 to 10 yards of him. Like, they weren't even close. It was literally just, here you go, buddy. But yes, he does hit hard and has decent hands, but geez, that makes it a lot harder to judge him. Sam Ellinger, solid QB, honestly, shouldn't have been on the board this late. He shouldn't have been on the board this late. And the only QB that went more under the radar than him was Buscelli. So, the kid throwing to Kylan Grenson, right? That's who threw him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I got on those guys.
Yeah, Sam Ellinger, I was surprised he was available this late. Don't like that the Colts took him because the Colts took Jacob Eason last year. So they got a guy that's going into his second year being a backup quarterback for Wentz. And now they also have a rookie who's going to be the third quarterback that they take in the 6th round. Don't get it. But they wait until the 7th round and they finally get their wide receiver. And the wide receiver they get is from University of Charleston, who is like a D3 college. You look at his highlights, there's no one in the stands for these games. Like, there's a highway overpass in the background. It looks like a high school football field. I'm not ragging on him because I can never play college football, but just the Colts needed a wide receiver, and they wait until the 7th, and they get Mike Strahan? Straken?
I don't know.
Strachan? Yeah, for going to a very small school, he's got a very great size and speed.
Yeah.
I was seeing some of the videos on him, just like the next Megatron. I'm like, oh, that's a lot. Like, he does look like it at D3 or D2, whatever level he was playing at. Does look like it against those guys because those guys don't have size or speed to compete with him. I'm like he is mossing guys and burning guys on tape, which he should have an opportunity in the NFL. Just like 7th round's a good spot for him. I shouldn't rag on it for that. For him being the only wide receiver that the Colts are going to use a pick on, though, is wild.
Yeah, and I think we're on the same page there. So obviously, obligatory wide receiver pick.
Of course.
I feel like we kind of got it away from it, but even the last few we've had wide receivers. But I just kind of gave him a comp here because I'm like, who's gonna know about this guy? And like I don't really feel like describing him fully. So like if there was like a solid NFL player to compare him to, so you always when you do these comps, it's not actually like suggesting that the player will be this good. It's just like to say what they're like. I said like young AJ Green kind of because kind of got the ability to go up and get the ball, but he's not like overpoweringly fast. He's decent speed, but he's not overpoweringly fast, and that's kind of just what I wanted to say about him. But yeah, no, that was my issue too. Is that this is the only receiver they picked, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, he really pops on his tape, but then like you'll be like, wow, that was a great play, and then you have to take yourself back a second and be like, he's playing at the University of Charleston, and they're playing on a football field or a high school football field right now. So you kind of just need to like yeah, that's a great play. Competition he's going up against isn't really great, and that's usually a big thing for quarterbacks.
Yeah,
But just you know, defensive backs in the NFL aren't no slouches. Like you kind of need to have
yeah.
some experience with that. So he's gonna have some welcome to the NFL moments. Probably has already in mini camps that they've had.
Hmm.
And then their last pick, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, it would have been nice to double down on wide receiver here just so you could say you took two. But if there's anyone that can develop offensive line talent, it's going to be the Colts. So they take Will Fries, solid offensive line depth, and if there's anyone that could really make him an upper echelon offensive lineman, maybe even get him into a starting rotation there, I'd say it's the Colts.
Yeah, I agree. That's all you gotta say. I don't have any undrafted free agents for them because I didn't see any guys that stuck out enough to make me want to talk about them. I will say that they have a pretty decent amount of undrafted free agents on their roster currently, though, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, and for the schedule, just because that's where we're headed next, the over under is 10.
Okay. Uh, Colts fans, you're gonna hate me, but let me just run through the schedule right now. The Colts have a tough schedule. They're either playing against teams that I don't think they have a chance against. They play against three types of teams. Ones that I don't think they have a chance against, ones that I think they're going to slaughter, and then the one in the middle is just this is going to come down to the wire. Like there's no like
Just out of curiosity, how many games do you have going down to the wire? I actually completely agree with you, but I've only got one.
two.
Two. Okay, let's hear it.
All right. Week 1 against Seattle. I think Seattle's just going to have themselves put together. I don't think Seattle's going to be very good this season, but I think they're going to be more put together than the Colts are, at least to start the season off. So I think that's going to be an L. Week 2 against the Rams. You and I are both very high on the Rams. I think with Stafford there, they're going to be leaps and bounds better than they were last season. They were already good last season, so that's an L. At Tennessee, that's an L because that wide receiver core, insane. At Miami, I think that's going to be an L. Just I think this is one of the games that could come down to the wire here. Just two very evenly matched teams. I just want to go with Miami because I think I know more of what they're going to have. I don't really know. It's just something made me choose Miami there, and also they're at Miami too, so that gives Miami the edge as well. At Baltimore, I don't think they have a chance against Baltimore. Home against Houston, they're gonna sweep Houston. They are very fortunate to be in the same division as the Texans and the Jags this season. At San Fran, I only have San Fran losing like 2 or 3 games this season, and this is not going to be one of the games that San Fran loses. The Colts take the L here. Home against the Titans. I gave them the win. I gave them the win on this one. I don't think they're going to get swept by Tennessee. Just close divisional game. They always give the Titans trouble over the past 2 years. They always give the Titans trouble. Gave them trouble last year. I think they pick up a win at home, split it with them. Division games are tough. I gave them that one. And then confidence from that one. Going into the next 2 games, play against the Jets, gonna beat them. and then home against the Jags, beat them. So Colts fans, get your season tickets. You're gonna have a great 3-game stretch here. All at home too. Then at Buffalo, I think that's gonna be a loss. They gave him trouble in the playoffs, but uh, just I don't think it's gonna be the same this season, even with a better quarterback under center. Home against Tampa Bay. Tampa's gonna win that one. Just all around put together better. At Houston, that's gonna be a win. Like I said, they're gonna sweep Houston. Uh, go into their bye week, and they have a very late bye too. Which it just seems like the teams that don't need that late bye because they're going to have a tough schedule. They get it late, and it's like, it's whatever. Coming out of the bye, they go against New England at home. New England's gonna be a tough out. I think that's gonna be an L.
Especially by
at
December
Arizona.
18th.
Yeah. Yeah. At Arizona, I think this is going to be the second game that comes down to the wire here for them. And I think it's going to be an L because I gave the advantage to Arizona and just their ability to probably put up more points than them if it had to come down to it.
Okay.
But they end the season with 2 wins, home against Vegas and at Jacksonville, giving them a 7-10 record for me.
Okay. Yeah. So we just did the Seahawks before this. So I don't want to flip-flop like immediately and say that they're going to beat the Seahawks week 1, but this is definitely a game that they could win. But I'm giving them the loss now because I did favor the Seahawks before, and I don't think my opinion, even though we went through today and actually looked at the Colts roster to get ready for this video, I don't think my opinion changed much on the Colts really. Whereas I think I was a little bit higher on the Seahawks after actually checking the Seahawks out, and for that reason, even though the Colts are the home team, I'm going to have them losing to Seattle week 1, and like you said, it definitely does help that they've kind of got a little bit more consistency coming into this game where Indianapolis may have to kind of be figuring some stuff out, finally getting to the regular season with a new quarterback and stuff. I mean, they came out flat against Jacksonville last year. There's no reason to think that week 1 this year would be just a tremendous outputting against a division winner last year. And then the Los Angeles Rams, we also, like you said, really like them. Think they'll be a really solid team. We can't give them a W there. That's going to be an L too. Tennessee, also very high on Tennessee. L there. I know that they can give them trouble, and I could see them actually splitting with Tennessee, but if I'm just picking the team straight up now, I still got to go with Tennessee at this moment. I don't really want to go against Tennessee. I don't see. There's not an actual reason why that the Titans would lose the game to the Colts, either of the 2 games, but because it's in the division, I will admit that they definitely could lose one or even both of them if it went really badly. And I mean, hey, that makes the Colts a lot better really quickly if they grab 2 extra in the division. Then the 4th game, I didn't know this at the time I was picking for the Dolphins, but I didn't think that the Colts would be coming into this 0-3, but after seeing their first 3 opponents, they very well could be. They're probably hoping, honestly, if I'm a Colts fan, I'm hoping to get out of the first 2 weeks at 1-2, and then first 3 weeks at 1-2, and then the 4th week pick up a W to get to 2-2, because it's really not an easy early schedule, and you've got Baltimore week 5. But like I said in the Miami video, because I wanted to pick one game this season that is my tie, I am going to stick to that, even though I'm not sticking to wins and losses for every to match up perfectly for everybody. The one tie I'm picking, that is staying the same, and that's Indianapolis at Miami is going to be a tie. Okay, week 5 at Baltimore. You said you don't think they have a chance in this game. I think they have a chance in every game they play because they're a solid all around football team.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm still picking the Ravens.
Yeah, they don't stand a chance in this game.
Houston the following week. Finally, they get a matchup that's in their favor because really, just gotta reiterate this: their schedule absolutely screws them. This has got to be one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. Don't listen to like what other people say about win percentage based off last season because teams change every year. And even though I will say this, I have them beating the Jaguars twice in my in my games. Like the Jaguars are not going to be as easy of an out as they were last year, and the Colts actually
Hmm.
lost to them last year, so I don't know how great of an example that is. It's pretty weird. It's a lot of stuff that changes every year, but Houston's not too good. W there. Um, San Francisco, they're at San Francisco. San Francisco is going to be back to their good old ways of, just being a dominant team in terms of like all sorts of everything, just outside zone play action off of it. Defense will just be all together. As long as they can hold off the injuries, San Fran will be a really good team again. And then I think their roster is better than Indianapolis, so they get the win. Tennessee, once again, I said that I think Tennessee's a better team, could drop a game or even two to the Colts, but I still would favor the Titans in both those games at this point in time. So that's another loss. Now here we go later into the season. It gets a little better because I mean through October those games there's one game that's like really an easy game for them. That's just terribly tough scheduling for them. They got the New York Jets on Thursday, November 4th, which will help them out a lot. They get a W there. Then 10 days later, they play the Jacksonville Jaguars. As I said, get a W there. Think they're a lot better of a team. This next game, though, at Buffalo, this game could really be a surprising game. I wouldn't be shocked if the Colts beat the Bills, honestly. Um, Carson Wentz, last time he played the Bills, played an extremely efficient game. And Frank Reich having an amazing underneath passing attack to work against the Bills that worked so well in the playoffs last year. On top of that, having a run game, which the Bills still seemingly cannot figure out how to stop any sort of run game at all. Uh, I'd say that the Colts have actually a really solid chance in this game, and this game may be closer to a toss-up than I want to say, but I'm giving it to the Bills for now because they're the home team. Tampa Bay the following week. I don't think Tampa Bay has as many exploits that the Colts could take advantage of that they could against the Bills, so that's just an L to Tampa Bay. Obviously, Tampa Bay Super Bowl champions. That's not too shocking, I don't think. At Houston, once again, Houston, pretty poor roster. That's a W. Get that bye week. New England on December 18th. Uh, this one's tough, but I do think that the Patriots will be in their end of season form at this point. The Colts could beat them in this game, but I mean, this is going to be a game I'm interested to watch. See where all these teams are sitting at this point in the season. See if they can perform better than what I'm expecting. I mean, I'm expecting a decent amount out of the Patriots, but Indianapolis is going to need to beat some good teams to still be in a competitive position for the playoffs. If they want to be playing for anything against New England, really, because they got to win some of these tough early games to really put themselves in a good position, and that's going to be tough. I just think New England at that point with like I said, I think that Frank Reich is a great coach and he really gets a lot out of his players. But Bill Belichick is a great coach too, and I think the Patriots have a little more on their roster at this time, especially if you give them that's the 14th game of the season. I think they'll be put together by then and be playing pretty well. I think that's an L to New England. Last three games, luckily though, because at this point they're sitting at a 3-10-1 record for me, which is pretty atrocious. At Arizona, Las Vegas, and at Jacksonville. I think they're better than all three of those teams. I think they're significantly better coached than two of those teams, and maybe even three, just because we haven't seen Urban Meyer coach yet. And right now, I'm looking at a 6-10-1 record, and they could. I mean, they're not going to win less games than this. I'll tell you that right now.
Mm.
They're too good that they're not gonna win less games than 6-10-1. But honestly, they're just screwed over by how many good teams they have to play this season. I mean, drawing the NFC West as one of the groups of teams you have to play, that just sucks. Having the Titans in your division twice is not good. The AFC East too is solid. An extra game against the Buccaneers. It's just not too much of a recipe for success. They're gonna have a tough time this season. And
Yeah.
it's really not because their team is bad. I just can't say that enough. It's just because of who they're playing. Maybe if they had all these tough games again a year from now, after they get like Carson Wentz put back together basically from his like sort of dysfunctional state from last season, maybe then they'll be able to compete in all these games. But I feel like this year is going to be tough on the entire team, even though they're good and well coached.
Yeah, I think one thing that all Colts fans should do when they look, well, like hearing this prediction is wild, especially after last season, but think about last year's team and how well they would do against this year's schedule. Because I think last year's team with Phil Rivers at the helm would do way worse than. Because I also agree, they're not going to lose more than 7 games in my mind. They're not going to lose more than 10. Sorry, they're not going to lose more than 10.
Yeah.
Uh,
This is like the worst scenario, but for some reason I still think it's likely.
Yeah. I'm definitely thinking worst scenario here, but I also think it's probably the most possible scenario.
Yeah, which is weird.
With Phil Rivers at the helm, though, I think they drop a lot more, like, probably split it with Jacksonville then, maybe. That Raiders game is going to be closer then. Just think about last year's team in this situation with the schedule, because their schedule last year was a gift. They had some easy games last season, and having easy games, winning them, that rewards you with a tougher schedule the next season, especially when you draw the NFC West and AFC East, like you said. Just it's going to be a down year, but think about how much worse it could be if you had last year's team in that. Like if Phil Rivers signed a 2-year contract and he was still the QB, it'd be way worse.
Yeah, I agree. I just really wish that we could give these guys more hope, but I mean, it's just what happens. Every once in a while, you just get a terribly tough spot.
2022, though, I don't know exactly who they're going to be playing. Not that that's something to focus on really now, but that could definitely be the bounce back for them. Like you said, having Carson Wentz be put back together now, because that defense is going to be tough for any team, I think.
I mean, let's just talk about this for the second. In the first 5 weeks of the season, they play division winner Seattle, much improved Los Angeles Rams, arguably significantly improved Tennessee Titans, because I mean they have like 4 like elite level players on the offensive side of the ball, right? Miami, who no one is thinking is a slouch, and Baltimore the first 5 weeks of the season. Like, how much more? It doesn't matter what team you are. Like, if you're the Bucks, if you're the Chiefs, one of the teams in the Super Bowl, you do not want to see those 5 games as your first 5 games of the season. It doesn't matter. That's a terribly difficult start.
Going up against 5 teams that all had double-digit wins last season is...
Oh, did Miami get to 10?
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah, that's tough. That's rough, man.
So, even if the Chiefs or Bucks, like you said, had this, I think they'd be bound to drop one of them.
Probably 2. I mean, if it's that 5, if it's those 5 in a row, they're probably going to lose 2 of them, no matter what team you are. Like,
just it's really, really tough to have that right out of the gate when you're a team that already. I don't want to say turnover, because it's really the only turnover is at the QB position, but that is the biggest position to be having turnover at.
Yeah, it's the most important role in the entire franchise. Like, I mean, I think I said that to you the other day. Like, I mean, head coach is really important, but I still think that quarterback's one tick above head coach. Like, I don't think there's anything arguable, and if you want to get back to this, just because I love every time somebody says that wins are not a QB stat. Well, when you have the biggest impact on the game out of anyone on the field, yes, it can be attributed to you.
Yep.
But I don't feel like we've been so apologetic towards any team before, because it's just it's not because we're hating the team.
No, I really, really enjoy the Colts as a team. Like, I cannot wait to watch some Colts games next season. Just, this schedule is brutal for them.
Like, I mean, I'm excited for that Christmas game against Arizona, but, like, very well may not have anything to play for at that point, just because of how tough the early season is for them. Like, it's crazy. All right, well, I think we're just repeating ourselves at this point, but I just don't want Colts fans to be mad at us.
We're sorry, Colts fans. We're very, very sorry.
All right, are you all set?
Yeah, I think we can cut this here.